So we're going to continue our talk about why I do what I do and why do people like me do what we do. People like me have surrendered to the path of higher consciousness leading us. And how are we doing on our path of higher consciousness leading us? Higher consciousness says through me, we're doing a great job. Higher consciousness explains, planet Earth is full of... I don't know how to explain it other than it's a lot of troubles. A lot of troubles. And most people say, yes. And most people say, what are you going to do about it? And people who are like me say, from an ego level, from a human mind level, there's not much I can do. Maybe I can cut a check to a church or to the United Way or something if I've got enough money at the end of the year. But the other option that we have, we're going through all different kinds of options, is you can say, if there is a God, please help me. And then you say to God, whatever the hell I've got, it's not working for me, and it's, if I look at other people that are like me, it's not helping this world improve. Some people might debate that, but in my opinion, I see a lot of human wastage of potential, humans that are trapped in jobs, stupid things that they do, check out girls, and people who, if they had someone to help guide them, they could change. They could find something that's going to be more soul fulfilling. But they're stuck, and maybe they don't watch people like me, or they don't know about people like me, so they're stuck. But that's the way planet Earth is. And the higher consciousness that talks through me now says, if you surrender up your human mind and your human ego and say, I find it wanting. In other words, it's not good enough. And then you say, higher consciousness, please take control of this body and, do with it what you will. The higher consciousness comes through and says, okay. And then people like me do all kinds of things that regular egoic people find stupid. Mostly stupid. Some people say insane. Some people say wasting your time, wasting your life. And higher consciousness says, well, that was the path you didn't take, or you took that for a while until you came to the crossroads and you decided to give up the path that they are on, and you're on a different path, and you can look at them and they can spit at you, and that's you if you didn't take the path of higher consciousness. The end result of it all is what? The end result you can't see, but the result so far is You're here, they're there, and we're still a work in process on planet Earth. And what are we working towards? We're pretty much working towards helping the people who are still stuck in their mind and their egos figure out that it's not working out very well. Because in the end, higher consciousness simply wants everyone to realize there is higher consciousness, which is an evolved way of being. And most people, when they hear the word evolution, they think back to, well, something to do with biology and how monkeys became humans, and it's, nothing to do with me. I was born into this species of Homo sapiens sapiens, and that's how I'm going to die. And the higher consciousness says, unfortunately, that's the way people are taught, and it's pretty much a lie. The truth is, once you get to be a human, you don't evolve much as a species, as a group. Primarily because you as a species are not one thing. You're a bunch of ego minds, a bunch of monkey minds, calling themselves the same species because physically you are. But from any other level, you're looked at as being individuals. And as an individual, what kind of evolution do you get by being part of the group of humans? You don't. Humans as a group, ego humans, monkey-minded humans, don't evolve. This is the end of the road. So you as an individual must take it upon yourself to learn that there is a way to evolve yourself, and then you must take the path of, we're going to try it out. And then we're going to look to see, is higher consciousness running me, or is it a big joke? Because if you don't evaluate the teachings that you're given, then you're just another monkey mind. And if I was to look at myself and say, am I more evolved? Well, I would say, I'm changed. Is it an evolution or a de-evolution? The answer is, I don't really know, but I'm changed. I don't work the same way. My mind and my body don't work the same way they did before I took this other path. So there's a change. And sometimes I think I'm being interfered with by dark forces. And the higher consciousness comes through me and says, yes. And I say, that's not what I asked for. And the higher consciousness says, that's true. You weren't told about the particular path that you were going to go through. And from the higher consciousness point of view, when a demonic says, too bad, so sad, higher consciousness keeps talking to the demonic entities through me. And keeps telling the demonic entities that this is one way higher consciousness can talk to you, to your demons. And higher consciousness keeps encouraging the demons to change. And lo and behold, in the history of me, quite a few demonic beings have changed. And not become worse, they've actually gone on a different path where they became not evil. So it works. the amount of humans on the planet who have decided to evolve themselves to surrender to higher consciousness is not necessarily a good number. A good number would be 100% of humans. Because as long as there's a few humans who revolt at higher consciousness, we're going to have a lot of troubles. Because these ones who revolt against are what we call, exactly what I called them, demons. Evil things. Why is it that higher consciousness can't simply pen the demons in the abyss so that they don't hurt others? It's not only a free will universe, it's also higher consciousnesses unable to put it in human words other than we can't. The reason we can't is because it's not only a learning experience for humans to experience horrible, but it's a learning experience for higher consciousness as well. In other words, everything on this planet is not pre-planned, and there's some teachings that say, we hear it all the time, that everything is pre-planned. Everything you're going to do is pre-planned. And then you come in and you experience the pre-planned life. And the higher consciousness says that's not true. And somebody else might say, I'm talking about, and the higher consciousness says it's also true that other people cannot really tell what truth is and what's not. But for all of you watching this, my higher consciousness is going to reaffirm that things are not set in stone. And you do have free will, and you do have free choice. And it doesn't matter if it's so-called spiritual person that tells you you have no choice, or a demonic person, or someone in between. The message that I'm getting for you, dear viewer, is you have free will. You can make a choice to evolve yourself and surrender to higher consciousness, or you can continue to be an egoic person. And the higher consciousness says there's always people that want to know, well, how many people are in each category. The answer is it's always changing, and there's some people that are part-time higher consciousness people and part-time ego people. Are you constantly tested? One of the demonics say the answer is yes. You're constantly tested, and it's not necessarily like a formal test, but if you decide to become a higher consciousness person, can you change your mind later? The answer is the longer that you become a higher consciousness person, the more you become the actuality of higher consciousness. Less and less of you is ego. So it is a transformation. So if you were to imagine somebody, imagine that Jesus was a real person. Some people say it's just a fable. But imagine it was a real person. Could someone like Jesus become a demon? The answer is no. Because they are fully transformed. What other people do we have examples of? Dr. David R. Hawkins of Consciousness Research talks about Muhammad and says Muhammad was well on his way. He had higher consciousness earlier in his career. And then Dr. Hawkins said there was a great fall in consciousness with Muhammad. This is not my muscle testing, it's not my research. I'm simply repeating it because Dr. Hawkins talked about it. Is it true? You want to know the truth? For you, you're going to have to learn muscle testing, and you're going to have to learn how to test for truth. You're going to have to learn all about muscle testing, and then you're going to try it out and see if you even believe it. When I rely on muscle testing, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know if it's a great idea, but there's not a lot of ways of telling truth from falsehood. Lie detectors. How are you going to hook up Muhammad to a lie detector? You can talk to an imam about it, who's going to give you an interpretation, perhaps. I don't know what they would say. I haven't read imams talk about Muhammad's fall from grace, but Dr. Hawkins said Muhammad had a high consciousness level and he had a great fall. Dr. Hawkins said, because Dr. Hawkins is a doctor, or was a doctor, he was a psychiatrist and a medical doctor, and I believe it was epilepsy that he blamed the great fall, a disease, a physical disease. But the actual behavior of Muhammad that Dr. Hawkins says is a misunderstanding of the word jihad. I'm no expert at Islam. I'm no imam. And I haven't studied the religion. So all I'm going to do is repeat what Dr. Hawkins said, and then you can take it up with muscle testing and an imam to see if I'm wrong. And it's not me. You're going to see if Dr. Hawkins is incorrect. But he said that with jihad, Muhammad took up the sword. In other words, we're going to kill infidels. Either you become a Muslim or we're going to kill you. And that was the grave error, because that is not what higher consciousness encourages us to do. And if you want the real version of what jihad means from higher consciousness, I don't know. It's probably going to be something to do with you working on you and your own egoic traits. Someone says, why doesn't higher consciousness? Because higher consciousness has got to work with what I have in my human mind. And my human mind sometimes fails me, and quite often I complain that the reason why my human mind fails me is because I've got demonic attack problems. Which really means, as much as good as you get out of this talk, you should do your confirmation, your due diligence to what I'm talking to you about, which most people don't. They hear a lecture and they file it away and they say, well, that's the expert. So you can try muscle testing. You could talk to an imam. Talk about jihad, what it really means. And you can ask the imam, did Muhammad encourage his followers to take up the sword and kill non-Muslims or certain sects, S-E-C-T-S, sects, groups of Muslims that weren't officially approved? I don't know what they're going to say. Are all imams the same? I highly doubt it. Anyways, it's up there for you to figure it out. Why doesn't pure consciousness come through me like it might have come through Jesus? It's because we are in a process. You are in a process. When you are seeking higher consciousness, the more you do the seeking, the more stuff that's not in alignment with higher consciousness comes up to be examined. Sometimes you don't know what the hell's going on. How far do we have to go? Well, Dr. Hawkins, using the scale of human consciousness that runs from 1 to 1,000 on a logarithmic scale, 1 being the consciousness of an amoeba, a single-celled organism you might find in pond water, and 1,000 being the consciousness of Jesus or Krishna or Zoroaster or Jesus. I don't know what the current consciousness level is of your town. And Dr. Hawkins been dead for a number of years, so we don't have up-to-date numbers from him, if they were good numbers. But he said up until 1987, the collective consciousness of humanity was negative. It's a very low consciousness. It doesn't mean that humans weren't able to grow food and tell stories and talk and read and write. That's not the kind of consciousness that we're talking about. It's a different kind of consciousness scale. I don't know if you'd call it spiritual consciousness, but that's the scale that was being used. But it was negative because even at the top of the negative chart, at 190, we had pride, and Dr. Hawkins said that in the past the US Marine Corps ran on pride, so it was very highly efficient fighting force using the consciousness level of 190 pride. But you have to get to 200 before you start getting into positive part of the scale of human consciousness. And after around 1987, human collective consciousness went up to about 203. Dr. Hawkins said that some countries on the planet had lower consciousness for the collective than others. He said that the United States was among the leaders in collective consciousness as a country in those days. And in one of his books, he has a map of the world for when they did the muscle testing to see what the collective consciousness was of the individual countries. Has it changed? Probably. Major changes? I don't know. If you muscle test, learn to muscle test, these are questions that you can test. So, get cracking. Go do your own research.